hulking, crimson-skinned monster with sharp horns wielding a wicked club descends upon the innocent villagers. It scoops up an old woman in a clawed hand and shoves her between massive pointed teeth, gobbling her down. It grins with wicked delight. This is an Oni. Some of the most iconic creatures in Japanese mythology, Oni are a type of yokai or supernatural creatures. Terrifying and tricky, they have an interesting role in culture which has changed over the years. In this video we'll dive into the nature of the Oni and delight in some examples of their evil ways. It's hard to pin down an exact definition of an Oni because they're so varied, and trying to compare it with Western mythological creatures adds to the confusion. We can think of them as a kind of shape-shifting demon or ogre with evil nature. They tend to have red or blue skin, but they can be yellow and black. Most have horns and fangs and carry a kanabo, a kind of metal club. They may have 1, 2, 3, or even 4 eyes in their natural form, but they can change their shape to look like a human when they want to trick people. They're also very good at magic and are extremely strong and hardy. It's thought they're created when a person who is really evil and wicked dies and goes to one of the hells in Buddhist belief. There they are transformed into the Oni and serve the great Lord Enma who rules hell. Sometimes if someone is really evil, they can transform into an Oni while they're still alive. These are often the most famous and dangerous ones, like Shuten Doji. One of the most iconic features of the Oni is they can swallow people whole in an act called Oni Hitokuchi. They also enjoy peeling off skin, crushing bones, and torturing those people who are evil, but not quite evil enough to become Oni like themselves. Sometimes Oni are depicted as generic baddies, fodder for noble heroes. This is the case of the tale of Isunboshi, the one-inch boy. When Isunboshi and Prince Sanjo leave a temple, they are attacked by 2 Oni who swallow Isunboshi whole. But the brave little guy fights out with his needle sword and chases them off. In that tale, we don't get much description of the Oni, it's more about the feats of the hero. And you can find out more about Isunboshi and listen to my retelling of the story in a video I've made which I'll put up there and down in the description. While they can be just basic villains, many take on their own traits and personalities and become some of the most feared monsters around. Probably the most famous and one of the most powerful Oni was Shuten Doji. He tormented Japan as a supremely forceful and evil leader. He was born as a human boy who was quite antisocial, became a monk and then turned to drinking and got exiled. He formed an army of monsters and demons and other Oni and attacked the capital, Kyoto. His second in command was Ibaraki Doji, usually considered as female and thought to maybe be Shuten Doji's lover. She was a ferocious beast and loved causing havoc and suffering. Kidomaru was an Oni who may have been Shuten Doji's son, born after Shuten Doji was slain by the great samurai Minamoto no Raiko. Kidomaru had a similar background to his father, being exiled and then trying to take revenge on the man who killed his father. These Oni are the villains in lots of epic myths from around the Heian period. It's thought they may be grossly exaggerated tales of history with enemy leaders shown as these disgusting, horrible monsters. After all, history is written by the winners, and maybe these winners were especially imaginative. Another example of this is Otakemaru. This Oni was immensely powerful to the point that he was considered almost like a god. More likely, he was an exaggerated personification of Atarui, who waged a bloody war on the emperor. When the emperor sent an army of 30,000 horsemen to go and kill him, he covered the mountains in a dark, raging storm, and they couldn't find him for 7 years. It's an epic story involving lots of violence and treachery from a woman that Otakemaru fancied, and I'm sure I'll dedicate a whole video to it in the future. So past battles may have inspired many of these myths, but so did religion. Buddhism, spreading from India and China, brought many tales and mythological entities which adapted and evolved over the centuries. For example, the underworld, known as Meido, is from Buddhist origin. There, the souls of the dead are judged. But before they get there, they have to cross the Sanzu River, which is guarded by 2 horrific old Oni, Tatsueba and Keneo. Good souls are allowed to cross the bridge. Those who were neither good nor bad in life can wade across the shallows, and those who were truly wicked have to swim across the deepest parts of the river. When you get across, Kaneo takes your clothes and hangs them from a tree. If your clothes are very wet because you had to swim in the deepest parts, then the clothes hang lower on the branches, and this is a measure of how much of a sinner you were. Oh, and if you decide to trick them and not arrive with any clothes, then Kaneo will tear your skin off and hang that from the tree instead. All the while, Datsueba and Kaneo punish all of those who did wicked crimes in their life. So in this role of guarding the entrance to Meido, they may be wicked, but they are serving a purpose. And there are some Oni who are much less evil, like Yanari, who are tiny Oni who appear at night in the houses that are newly built or poorly made and haven't had time for the roofs and the walls to settle yet. They carry clubs and mallets, and all night they run about making a whole lot of noise, bangs, cracks and creaks. You may have heard them in your house. Then there are the Namehagi, who appear like Oni on the first full moon of the new year. They go to everyone's door with their knives out and ask if there have been any bad children in the house. They're actually a positive force sent by the gods to check up on and warn anyone who might be behaving wickedly, especially children. In some coastal places they're called Aposha, and they come from the waves and scare all of the kids and then go off again. All this talk of Oni doing good things brings us to Hososhi, the one who sees in all directions. When the tradition arrived in Japan, a Hososhi was a minister and priest with special robes and a shield and spear. They were in charge of state funerals, burials, and keeping evil spirits away. They performed the Tsuina on the last day of the year. They put on a mask and a costume and became the Hososhi god. Then they went around and chanted and cleansed shrines in important buildings and made sure all the bad spirits were gone. However, over time the perception of Hososhi changed in Japan. They became seen as the evil spirits themselves, a kind of Oni with 4 eyes. The priests and the officials had to do a ritual to chase away the Hososhi and in that way cleanse the area. As you can tell, Oni are incredibly diverse. The origins of the stories about them are varied, and what they represent culturally and psychologically is fascinating. Some may be the caricatures of formidable enemy warlords or evil dictators, while others are a manifestation of more mundane fears, like the creaking in your house at night. And in modern times, the reputation of Oni has improved somewhat, often thought of as protecting from bad luck. In the story The Red Oni Who Cried, the Oni are seen as caring and empathetic towards humans. They're just misunderstood monsters. Whatever they are, they're the foundation of countless brilliant myths and legends that we have the privilege of being able to enjoy. So hit the like button if you agree that Oni are awesome, and subscribe for more videos on mythology from around the world. And right here is a link to the Isun Boshi or 1-inch boy story, so you can go and watch that right now. See you next time.